I did not know the truth about my husband. I married him without knowing anything about him. If I had known, I would not have married him. At first, he seemed like a great man, but later, I found out he was different. Let me tell you everything from the beginning. It all started on a sunny day in spring. I was at a friend's birthday party, feeling joyful and excited. The room was filled with laughter, music, and the sweet smell of cake. As I chatted with friends, I noticed him across the room. He had a charming smile and warm eyes that sparkled with kindness. We locked eyes and he walked over to me. "Hi, I'm glad to meet you," he said, his voice smooth and inviting. We talked for hours, sharing stories and dreams. He told me about his job, his family, and his love for adventure. I was captivated by his words. He seemed perfect, funny, smart, and kind. As the night went on, I felt a connection that I had never felt before. I thought to myself, maybe this is the one. We started dating soon after that night. Every moment spent together felt magical. He took me to beautiful places, surprised me with little gifts, and made me laugh until my stomach hurt. I felt like I was living in a fairy tale. My friends noticed how happy I was and encouraged me to take the next step. After a few months, he proposed. I was overjoyed. I said yes without hesitation. I thought I had found my soulmate. Our wedding day was beautiful, a day filled with love, laughter, and dreams of a bright future. But little did I know that the fairy tale was about to turn into a nightmare. In the beginning, everything seemed perfect. We enjoyed our time together, going on trips and making plans. But as time passed, I started to notice little things that didn't add up. He would often cancel plans at the last minute, claiming he was busy with work. I trusted him, thinking he was just dedicated to his job. Then there were the late nights. Sometimes he would come home late, and when I asked where he had been, he would brush it off with a vague answer. "Just work stuff," he would say. I wanted to believe him, but my heart felt uneasy. I started to feel lonely, as if I was living with a stranger. One evening, I decided to surprise him by preparing his favorite dinner. I wanted to remind him of the love we shared. As I set the table, I felt excited. But when he walked through the door, he looked different, distant, and distracted. I tried to engage him in conversation, but he seemed uninterested. It was as if a wall had come up between us. Days turned into weeks, and the distance grew. I felt like I was losing him. I began to question everything. Was he really the man I thought he was? I decided to dig deeper. I started asking questions about his life, his past, and his work. But every time I tried, he would change the subject or give me vague answers. One night, while he was in the shower, I noticed his phone buzzing on the table. My heart raced. I knew I shouldn't, but I felt compelled to look. I picked up the phone and saw messages from a woman I didn't know. They were flirty and intimate, and my heart sank. I felt sick to my stomach. I realized I had been living a lie. When he came out, I confronted him. "Who is she?" I demanded, my voice shaking. He looked shocked, then angry. "It's nothing, just a friend," he shouted. But I could see the guilt in his eyes. I felt betrayed and heartbroken. The man I thought I knew was hiding a dark secret. From that moment on, everything changed. I couldn't trust him anymore. I began to notice more signs of his deceit. He would often leave the house for work, but would return late and smell of perfume that wasn't mine. I felt trapped in a relationship that had become a nightmare. I tried to talk to him about my feelings, but he would dismiss me. "You're overreacting," he would say. "You need to trust me." But how could I trust someone who had broken my heart? I felt lost and alone, drowning in a sea of confusion and pain. As the weeks went by, I realized I had to make a choice. I could either stay in this toxic relationship or find the strength to leave. I began to confide in my close friends. They listened and supported me, reminding me that I deserved better. They encouraged me to think about my happiness and well-being. One day, I gathered all my courage and confronted him again. "I know about the messages," I said firmly. "I can't live like this anymore." He tried to deny it, but I stood my ground. I felt empowered, ready to take control of my life. After a long and painful conversation, I made the decision to leave. It was one of the hardest things I had ever done, but I knew it was necessary. I packed my things and moved in with a close friend. As I closed the door behind me, I felt a mix of sadness and relief. I was finally free. The days that followed were tough. I experienced a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, sadness, and even moments of doubt. I questioned my choices and wondered if I had made the right decision. But deep down, I knew I had chosen my happiness. I focused on healing. I spent time with friends, pursued my hobbies, and rediscovered who I was. I learned to love myself again. Slowly, I began to rebuild my life, brick by brick. I realized that I was stronger than I had ever imagined. Months passed, and I found a new job that brought me joy. I met new people and made new friends. I felt like I was finally living again. The pain of my past began to fade, replaced by hope and excitement for the future. One day, while sitting in a cafe, I reflected on my journey. I realized that even though I regretted marrying him, I had learned valuable lessons. I learned to trust my instincts, to value my self-worth, and to never settle for less than I deserved. As I sipped my coffee, I smiled. I was no longer the lost girl who had married a stranger. I was a woman who had found her strength and courage. I knew that I would never allow myself to be in such a situation again. In the end, I understood that life is full of ups and downs. We may face challenges that seem insurmountable, but it is how we rise from those challenges that defines us. I had faced my fears, learned from my mistakes, and emerged stronger.